Welcome to Getting Started with Revit. This is a quick overview video of the user interface. So before you can really get started working in Revit, you need to know what the program looks like and what you're working with. So the first thing that you need to know is what version of Revit are you using? There's multiple versions and they all look a little bit different, but they all function very much the same. So if you're seeing something on my screen and the version that I have that looks a little different from what you have, don't worry, it's still going to function the same, and the basic parts and components are still going to look similar, and you're going to have most of the same options. So know what version you're using, because you cannot back save to older Revit versions. So if you create a model in Revit 2023, it could not be opened in Revit 2020 and used. Know what version you're using, and then determine if you're going to create a new file or if you're going to be working from an existing file. So if you're working from an existing file, again, you need to know what version you're using and what version the file that you're going to be using was created in. If it was created in a version other than what you have, you'll need to download the version that model was created in if you're going to be saving it and using it or giving it back to the original owner of the file. All right, so to get started, this is your opening screen, your Revit opening screen. And like I said, if you're opening a new file, this is where you would go right here. You would click on the Open tab right below the Models heading and search for the existing file that you have that should be saved on your hard drive or a flash drive, wherever you have that file saved. So that's how you would open an existing file. If you're creating a new file, you would click on the New tab right here below the Models heading. Now, this is to open or create a new model. You'll notice right below the Models heading, there's also a heading that says Families. Families are the groups of components that are used in your Revit model. So you can also open a Revit family, or you can create a new family. But for now, we're focusing on creating or opening a model. So if you create a new model, you would click on the New tab, and you'll see a New Project dialog box. Revit works with templates, and it's the easiest way to get started with a new project. You're going to choose a template that Revit already has available to you that's going to correspond to the type of project that you're doing, either residential or commercial. You have to be very specific, know what type of project you're working with, and then use the template that corresponds to that, because Revit by default has information built into those templates that correspond to the project type. So if you're working on a residential project, then you would have residential components, project components built into that template to use. So when you're opening a new template in Revit, you would see this new project dialog box. You want to make sure that project is selected right here. And then you would click the Browse button. And it takes you to this dialog box. And you're going to choose the template that corresponds to your project. So if it's a residential project, you would choose this template. If it's a commercial project, you would choose the commercial default template. We'll go with the residential, double click, and click OK. And now you've reached the actual Revit work area. And so we're going to just take a quick look here at what you have to work with. The first thing you'll see at the top of your screen is the quick access toolbar right here to the left of, or sorry, to the right of the blue R. So if you take a look at these, you just have some options here, some commands that are easy to get to, that are always pinned here at the top in the quick access toolbar that you can get to really easily. You can also customize the quick access toolbar right here and add commands as necessary That would come later once you're more comfortable working in Revit and you know what you use. The commands are actually really easy to find for the most part, the ones that you need. But once you understand kind of what you use the most, you can pin those at the quick access toolbar. And we'll go through these actual commands later when we take a look at getting started with a project. The next part of the workspace that you see here below the quick access toolbar is this portion of your screen, and this is your ribbon. The ribbon is one of the main working components areas of Revit. So you're going to be using the ribbon and everything contained within it, as well as this portion of your screen over here. Those are your two information areas and command areas. So the ribbon is organized by tabs here across the top, and each tab is organized with panels within that tab that has tools that correspond to that tab, to the heading, whatever it may be. So the architecture tab is the first one. Well, actually, file is the first one here. If we click on file and take a look at that first, then you'll see you're able to create a new project or family or title block, etc. You can save as, export. You can export your Revit file in other CAD formats. You can export it as a PDF, and etc. Here we have print, and you can print your Revit file. Now, here you'll notice a list of projects that have been recently worked on in your program. So you can actually, if you're working on a specific project and you need to go back to that project, then you can pin the project and it stays at the top of this list. Otherwise, it will eventually fall off as you continue working. Now, if you toggle right here, this little icon, it shows you what documents you have open. And that's a quick and easy way to find the projects that you are currently working on and have open in your work area. That would be right here, these two little icons. You can toggle between the two and see what you have going on. So you can pin current projects, you can unpin them, and keep them where you need them to be. The next tab that you see is the Architecture tab. And this is where you're able to create walls, create roof designs, ceilings, floors, everything that you need to create your model, all of the commands and tools that you need to create your model. Here in the version that I'm working on, the next tab is structure, and you have some structural elements here in the structure tab. The next would be the insert tab, and this is where you can link Revit files, link AutoCAD files, import AutoCAD files, load families. And again, families are the components that you use to make up your model. We have the Annotate tab where all of your annotation commands and tools are located. You can add dimensions, add details, text, etc. Here we have the Site tab that has site elements that you could include in your model. The View tab, this is where all of your view tools for your model are located. You can see your sheets, you can add 2D views, you can add 3D views here. This is where you would render your model, one place that you would render your model. You can view your sheet setups, everything that goes into your model as far as viewing the components of it. This is where you would do that. Next, we have the Manage tab, and that's where you manage your model and the aspects of the model. And then the last tab, which is going to be, other than the Architecture tab, your most used tab in the ribbon. So the Architecture tab and the Modify tab are where you're going to be working the most to actually create your model. But this is where you find tools and commands like move, copy, rotate, things like that. So typically you will go back to the Architecture tab, and that's kind of where you live for the most part when you're creating your model. Now the next thing that you'll notice and see is your Properties box. here, the properties palette to the left of your screen. And that tells you all of the information about something going on in your model. So right now I don't have anything actually drawn, but it's telling me about the floor plan view of my model. It tells me everything I need to know about the floor plan view. And as I work and change or select a component in my model, it will tell me information about whatever it is I'm working on at that point. So information here is always changing and updating based on what you're doing. And that's where you can see everything you need to know about the model that you're working on, or the actual component in the model that you're working on. And you can make changes here in the properties box as well, in the boxes that you see here. Now right below that is the project browser. This here is the other most important part of your workspace. The project browser shows you all of the views that you have available here listed. If it's bold, that means it is the current view that you're working on. If you'll notice that the first floor view is by default what you will begin working on when you start a new model in Revit, and it's bold. It corresponds to the tab here at the top, the view tab at the top. So you can know what you're working on by taking a look over here in the project browser and the views list. If it's bold and it matches here, then you know that's the current view that you're working on. So this is the list of views that are by default loaded into Revit. You see, you have ceiling plan views, 3D views, and just as a quick note, as you add 3D views, you'll see those listed here, and they will just start stacking up. Each 3D view that you add to your model, you will see those listed, and they just kind of stack up here underneath the default 3D view. Here you have 4 exterior elevation views already created, legends, schedules that will, as you work on your model, they will populate automatically based on the information that you put in. And here you have sheets. So Revit actually creates a list of sheets by default for you. Once you begin your model, it is already organized into sheets. So Revit, as opposed to other 2D modeling programs, when you begin a project in Revit, you are working on a complete project. As you can see here, all of these sheets are already set up, and as you work, they populate automatically. The information that goes on those sheets will populate itself automatically. Now, it is your responsibility as the designer to go in and organize those sheets like they should be, set them up and make them look as they should for your project, but the information is automatically being populated as you work. So you're not working on a single drawing when you work in Revit. It's not a simple line work drawing. You actually are creating a complete project by modeling it from the ground up. That's your list of sheets. And as you scroll down towards the bottom, here at towards the very bottom of your project browser is the Families tab. If you expand that Families tab, you'll see a list of folders. It's organized into very specific folders based on the type of information that is found in those folders. Each folder already has some things that come in it by default. So you already have these. These are your Revit families. Families are what make up your Revit model. They're going to be what you use in addition to the tools that you find here at the top in the ribbon. These Revit families are going to be what you use to create your model. So for instance, let's take a look at the casework option. And these are the actual cabinet units, casework that is built into Revit to get started. We can add as many cabinet units as we want, as many different types. We would go to the manufacturer and download their families and bring those into our model to use, but these here are what is available to us by default, and we don't have to go anywhere extra outside of our model right now to find these and bring them in.